Hey, thanks for tuning in. We are LivingFit, your trainer's trainer. We not only have education courses for trainers to upgrade their game, but we have full-on follow-along programs, workouts, exercise breakdowns, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for you to reach your fitness goals. Now, enjoy the show.
What's going on, everybody? Aaron Guyette, Education Director here at LivingFit, and I have the incredible pleasure of having Dr. Joel Fuhrman on the LivingFit show. So I will spare you the book-long resume of accomplishments that Dr. Fuhrman has created and founded and promoted and been able to help so many people with. But something that did stir in my heart when I was doing research to interview Dr. Fuhrman was the testimonials, the amount of incredible transformation or change that happened in these people's lives that were talking on video about what this Nutritarian diet had done for them. Was nothing short of mind-boggling and miraculous. And so he is a board-certified family physician, internationally recognized expert specializing in nutritional research on disease and prevention, or disease prevention and reversal through specifically nutrition and natural methods. He's the author of 7 New York Times best-selling books, and we weren't sure if it's 12, 13, 14, something like that total that he had written. So Dr. Fuhrman, thank you so much. What an honor to have you on the show.
My pleasure. Looking forward to this fun.
Yeah,
fun time.
Me too. And so I think to start us off, it seems as if, and this might be correct me if I'm wrong, you kind of came up with this concept or this word that is Nutritarian, right?
That's
and
correct.
So what is Nutritarian? What does that mean?
Well, my niche or my specialty has been to design the pinnacle of nutritional excellence to maximally slow aging and promote human lifespan, health span, and play span. So we can really enjoy our later years and do the things we did when we were younger and not be couch potatoes when we're older. So it's really slowing the aging process. And the most ridiculous statement people want to deny, here's this ridiculous statement I'm going to make right now, that a diet that's healthier is healthier than a diet that's less healthy. People want to believe a diet that's not as healthy is just as good as a diet that's healthier. And it's just not. You get more benefits out of a healthier diet. So just think, the blue zones around the world, right? There are healthy diets. They live an average of 6 to 8 years longer than Americans live. But they're not ideal diets. They're just 6 to 8 years longer in average longevity. They're not scientifically designed to have the best quality and the most longevity possible from the human species. That's what a Nutritarian diet is. It's a diet that's high in nutrients, where everything you eat has a excellent nutritional bang per caloric buck. But not only that, we're trying to have micronutrient diversity to make sure we have adequacy of all the nutrients humans need and not have excess of things we don't need, including things that are toxic. So it's really designed to maximize your health. We make it taste delicious. And here's the kicker. It's that when you design a diet to promote human aging, to promote the lifespan to this degree, it becomes therapeutically effective to reverse disease when people are sick. So now that people's diabetes go away, their high blood pressure goes back to normal, their lupus goes away, and their asthma goes away, and their fibromyalgia, and their rheumatoid arthritis, and their multiple sclerosis is gone. So therapeutically, it's extremely effective at reversing disease, which I've gotten tremendous enjoyment from and pleasure from, aiding people in reversing disease through most of my career.
Yeah, the story of somebody running down the aisle saying, "You got my wife pregnant," it totally got my ear, and I was like, "Wait, what?" And then, of course, you're telling the story, but then you realize, I don't know, maybe you were there. It was you that supposedly got his wife pregnant. So what happened there?
Right. I was giving a lecture to like 700 people with a lot of physicians in the audience. And this guy comes up the middle aisle in the middle of my lecture and starts yelling, "You got my wife pregnant." Can you imagine? So then he comes forward to the stage. I don't even know who you are, And he said, And then he says, yeah, we've been trying to have a baby for like a decade, and she's tried all these interventions, and finally, I read your books. She changed her diet, and we were able to have a baby and get pregnant. We're so excited. Thank you so much. And then there were a bunch of infertility specialists in the front row of the lecture who stood up and said, we use your program in our clinic, and it does help women get fertile who couldn't have babies in the past.
Wow. Yeah. And that's so therapeutics, fertility, right? All of these things are literally life-changing things, right? If you had lupus or asthma or something like that, and you're able to choose better nutrition and have it literally change. I mean, so obviously we do a lot of like fitness stuff and exercise and, healthy eating so that people can look better, feel better, and move better. But man, you talk about the feel better piece. I mean, if you're, is.
Can you imagine? I had this 16-year-old girl who was on the National Renal Transplant list waiting for a new kidney with lupus, and her creatinine was 4.2. Now, I didn't think she could get back to normal from having 90% of her kidney was destroyed. I thought she'd, maybe help her a little bit, but she made a complete recovery. Her creatinine came down to 0.8 and her lupus went away completely. Wow. So I produce all these stories. Sometimes I publish these case histories, but nevertheless, you still can't get major funding with millions of dollars to produce the massive studies to make nutritional therapeutics a major part of the medical profession's toolbox. So it's still, but it's incredibly powerful to have the tool and these, when you have these autoimmune conditions that are so serious, doctors put you on chemotherapeutic agents for the rest of your life, for the rest of your shortened life, because these agents cause cancer, and these people inevitably eventually get some cancer from the drugs they're taking to partially relieve their condition. So conventional medical care needs so much to be desired and is really barbaric compared to giving people an opportunity to totally get well.
Yeah. So what made you go down the path of, sort of obviously board certified physician? You could kind of hop on the train of conventional medicinals and things, right? And the pharmaceuticals and whatnot that everybody else is doing. What made you decide, I'm going to go this route as opposed to that route?
I think it had a lot to do with my gradual development and upbringing. I was on the world figure skating team. I was third in the world in pairs figure skating in 1976. And so I was always like eating healthfully to try to improve stamina, strength, conditioning, compete against the Russians, the best in the world, to be as best as you possibly can, you know what I mean, for strength and stamina and speed and everything. So and then for not getting sick. Even the world-class athletes that I've advised do it so they don't get sick. Like I remember like Eric Schlappe as an example. He's a former U.S. downhill skier who competed in 4 Olympic Games, right? But he competed in 4 Olympic Games. That's 16 years of top of the skiing, because prolonging their career. So we have a lot of these people who are top athletes prolonging their career. And as you're competing, you don't want to have get ill with a flu or with a cold. So it sets your training back because you're timing it to peak at right at your events, and a tenth of a second can make the difference between getting a $500,000 contract or something. You know what I mean? So we're talking about using nutrition for performance excellence. And I got into that when I was younger. I used to coach athletes, and I used to be involved with I used to coach other competitors. So that made me excited about what nutrition can do. And then I started going to conventions and conferences and learning more about it. And I saw these people reversing disease and getting well. And I said, this is what I want to do. And I was working at that point, I had graduated from college, working in my family's shoe business and economically secure. But I decided to go back to the postgraduate pre-med program at Columbia and then go to medical school at Penn, specifically with the intent of being a doctor specializing in nutrition, because I knew with a conventional education, with an excellent education, I can then move forward and have a more powerful effect on people and have more impact,
Yeah, absolutely. And so speaking of impact, obviously we as the world has been impacted by illness, specifically COVID-19. But then obviously we've had the flu, right? And the flu season and colds and all sorts of these other diseases that you're even talking about as well, that are autoimmune disorders and things like that. So
Right.
I want to get back into talking about the therapeutics. So describe to me, maybe, obviously as a lay person, most of our audience are lay people in this realm. So with as simple X's and O's, maybe, or as simple as we can, what is it about this nutrition or Nutritarian diet that enables this to be a therapeutic? Or is it creating a robust immune system, or is it creating resiliency in the immune system, or how is it exactly working from like a scientific standpoint or physician's or doctor's standpoint?
Yeah, absolutely. And you said at the beginning of this statement that, right now we have people dying of COVID, which doesn't have to happen. And everybody, and this discussion is not even focused in the right direction. They're not even on the right syllable. You know what I'm saying? The point is that why are people still at risk of COVID? Why don't they stay, eat right, get in super great shape, get their immune system strong, and not worry about it? It's crazy that this is not even a point of discussion. And people are gaining weight, and we know more people. The sicker you are, and the less unhealthy you eat, the more you're at risk of death. Getting cancer and heart attacks wasn't enough to scare people to eat healthy, because it happens 20, 30 years from now. But a death that could be imminent in the next year isn't even enough to make people change their diet. It's just like it shows how addicting and processed food and fast food and fake food is, how addicting it is, that it takes over people's primitive brains with addictive drive, so they can't even think logically anymore. So it really is. It's like when you're a heroin addict or a cocaine addict or even an alcoholic, you're not making your own decisions. Your addictions are making some of those decisions for you, and you come up with all kinds of excuses and irrational decisions based on continue your addictive behaviors. And it's the same thing with food, that people are committing suicide with food today more than ever before. And to answer your question now about, what makes a Nutritarian diet so, it's powerful. Yes, it's that it fixes immune system defects because it's so rich in micronutrients, particularly phytochemicals and antioxidants, which the American diet is void of. In other words, you can divide food into three different categories. Processed foods: pasta, bread, salad oils, mayonnaise, donuts, cookies, crackers, rice cakes, breakfast bars, chips, breads, animal products, and produce. Only produce has phytochemicals and antioxidants, and only green vegetables contain isothiocyanates, and only colorful plants contain carotenoids. In other words, the American diet is only 2% vegetables. And vegetables have the most consistent and powerful association with the reductions of cancers of all type. So I'm saying a piece of chicken is like a bagel. And the reason I'm saying a piece of chicken is like a bagel is because they're just a source of macronutrients, meaning calories. The chicken has protein, the bagel has carbohydrate, but neither one has a significant micronutrient load, and they don't contain antioxidants and phytochemicals. And the more you eat of them, the more you're going to be at risk of an early life death. Thinking, it's low fat, or it's just, but you're not consuming the needs of a primate to prevent reactive oxygen species and free radicals from getting too high, accelerating the aging process. So we have to eat a wide variety of high nutrient plants to maximize human lifespan. And I have an acronym so people can memorize those foods which have the most powerful association with heightened immune system support that prevents cancer. Now, the same immune system functions that prevent cancer curtail and prevent autoimmune disease, help reverse disease, and of course, prevent infection like COVID at the same time. And those foods, I call them G-bombs. G-bombs. G-B-O-M-B-S, and that stands for greens, beans, onions, mushrooms, berries, and seeds, like flax seeds, chia seeds, hemp seeds. Have you had a couple of tablespoons of seeds today? Have you had at least a cup of berries today? Have you had at least a quarter cup of raw onion and cooked mushrooms? Have you had at least a half a cup of beans and at least 2 cups of greens, at least a few cups of raw greens and a few cups of cooked greens in your diet? In other words, a human species is dependent on certain phytochemicals, for example, in green vegetables like isothiocyanates, ITCs, to activate the NRF2 transcription proteins, which then control oxidation in the cell, renews toxic buildup in cells, prevent carcinogens from binding to DNA, and prevent the growth of methylation defects in the cell. So we're just giving some examples that you need these green vegetable substances for the body to behave normally. And even the cell receptor for ergothioneine coming from mushrooms were designed in the nature of the development of the human species to actually have a requirement for these phytonutrients. It's not just the vitamins that make the inside of a multivitamin. There's a lot of other requirements, even thousands of them, that are what we get from eating a wide variety of high nutrient plants that enable normal human lifespan. I always make the joke, if you don't like green vegetables, you better live close to a hospital because you're going to need one a lot.
Oh, man. I mean, but yeah, so the truth hurts because it's true, right? And so then, of course, eating these G bombs and having this Nutritarian diet and following it perfectly, it would be perfect in a perfect world. Clearly, we're not in a perfect world. Is there a scenario where one could follow this like 80%, sort of, have their cake and eat it too, right? Where it's okay, but I still want to have a steak every now and again, or I still want to go and get fast food, or I'm just trying to talk to, I think the average person, right, is trying to figure out a way to get away with. And so what would be totally non-negotiables, and then what would be negotiable, right?
It's a really good question, which obviously I've spent the last 30 years, going over that question and applying it. And that's the art and science here. Let me explain it to you for a minute, okay? Because, let's say I'm not a food addict and I'm not an alcoholic. I can go and have a drink once a month if I wanted to. I don't want to, but if I did, it wouldn't really hurt me to have a drink once a month. It's just once a month. Unless it triggered me to keep drinking, then it would cause a lot of problems. I can have go out and have a rack of lamb if I wanted to once a month. It's not going to kill me because it's not going to induce me to have meat every night of the week for the next 2 weeks. But so many overweight people can't, we know from experience, treating thousands of people, they can't have an occasional drink. They can't have an occasional bagel. They can't have an occasional pizza or French fry. It drives them into perverted nutritional binging. And it keeps them desirous of for this love affair they have with these fattening and illicit foods that drive them to overeat. Yeah, a lot of people can eat real healthy, most of the time, and occasionally have something or go out and have something for recreation that's not that healthy and go right back to their healthy diet again. And for those people, they don't have to do it 100%. But a lot of the people we see at our retreat here that come here with food addiction, obesity, and medical problems, we're teaching them to do this 100% with no cheating. Because we know from experience, they can't have a foot in both worlds, because the minute they start to do it 90% or so, they're doing it, they're blowing up and they're not losing weight and they're not going to get the benefits. And the longer they stay away from their addictive triggers, the less those foods are calling their name, and the less cravings they have for those foods they think they were missing. They stop missing them, stop desiring them. So the answer is, yeah, you could be pretty healthy if you did this, 90%, and you don't have to do it perfectly. But I still, for most of the sick people and overweight people I take care of, they have to do it 100%. And then just think about this. If you're sick and you're overweight, why would you waste a day, a meal, or a mouthful not moving towards getting well and getting your health back?
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. It's sort of the law of entropy, right? Like if we're not actively externally working on improving it, then it's going to probably get worse, especially if history is our best judge. And clearly, there's a track record of just bad eating choices, right?
And it's a track record of these people losing weight and getting their weight back again, and recidivism, and yo-yoing their weight and going on and off diets. And that's why we really got to have an addictive model and treat their emotional well-being, the intellectual, yes, but also emotionally and practical of how to make this work for them. And that's why I become more strict in the way I'm dealing with them, of course.
And I love that you are walking the talk as well, right? You're not an overweight, asthmatic, partier or something that's trying to get people to choose this nutrition diet or something like that, right? You're following it. And you're not
Right.
young in age, but very young in activity. Like I watched some of the videos that we'll probably use to showcase this. And I mean, you're doing like basically speed skating, not speed skating, but rollerblading, but at a really fast pace. You've got great mobility. You were doing ski jumps, right? All sorts of stuff that I think that an average person that is your age, and I won't share it unless you want me to share it, but that's,
Oh, you
yeah,
can share my age. I'll be 68 in a
right.
couple
Yeah.
of
So the
months.
average 67-year-old, right, is definitely not pursuing any of these activities. If anything, probably trying to stay away from most of those activities because they're afraid that they're going to get hurt. Their coordination is down. Their mobility isn't there. They don't have strength. They don't have stamina, right? All the things that are necessary. Strong bones are not there. And so you're a walking and talking result of this, where you've demonstrated clearly that this diet isn't robbing you of essentials that you would need to maintain strong bone health, for instance, or maintain enough lean body mass. What about the person that's trying to gain, like we have people that really want to gain a lot of strength and a lot of muscle. What about that person? Is this diet, can it still help them on that journey? Or is there, replacement needs for macronutrients and total calories if their goal is to gain?
That's also a really great question, because it's really important to understand this. Because what is your goal? Is your goal to live to be fit and active to 100 years old? Or is your goal to be as big as you, strong as you possibly can? Because if your goal is to be as big and strong as you possibly can, you're not going to get to be 100 years old. Because you have to eat excessive calories to get as large as you possibly can. That's why the people with the shortest lifespan in North America are linebackers on football teams. The Nash study, they were the most short-lived people of any profession. That doesn't mean the tennis players were one of the longest-lived athletes. The tennis players, the skiers, and even the tight ends and the run and the receivers had good lifespans, but not the largest guys, not the power lifters, not the linebackers. They had short lifespans. They have to eat more food to get that large. I'm strong for my body weight. I can bench press more than my body weight at 68 years old. I can do a lot of chins and I can do a lot of chins and curls and stuff. You know what I mean? I can still ski and play tennis and do moguls all day long. And I can still I feel as strong and fit as I was in my 20s and 30s. But the point is that you want to be fit so you're physically fit to be active, but not to look good in the mirror to get as big as you possibly can, because my size is limited by my diet. If I want to gain 10 or 20 more pounds, I'd have to eat unhealthfully amount of protein to do that. And I can get somewhat stronger if I did that, but that wouldn't be maximally lifespan promoting. So take your choice. What do you want to do? You want to be fit and as strong as possible for a favorable body weight. You want to be lean. It's the type of lean fitness that a skier, a tennis player, a basketball player would have, not the type of fitness that you would get overly large with to be a power lifter.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's funny. So in my younger years, when I think ego was driving my nutrition choices and my exercise, I went all the way up to 240 pounds. But I'll tell you, all my health indicators, all my health metrics were just horrible, right? And I was 25, 26, 27 years old. So I should have really good, health numbers. But whether it was your triglycerides or blood pressure even was really high, I felt like crap. I slept like crap. Right. All of these things. And lo and behold, I went, back down to 195 pounds, and I can still lift a whole lot of weight, but I feel amazing. And I can now run for extended periods of time and not feel, worn out. And like, I couldn't even do that before when I was 220 to 240. Right. So
I know, it's funny because I'm telling them, they got to understand this. I want to be as small as I possibly can to be able to lift a huge amount of weights. You know what I mean? I get on the machines and lifting a lot of weights and you want to do a lot of, but you don't want to be as big as do that. You want to be as muscular dense as you can, and as lean and be ripped and not have extra weight or even extra muscle. Because we obviously, the excess animal protein you had to consume to get that size drives IGF-1, insulin-like growth factor 1, which is a growth promoter. And you don't want to drive growth promotion because that ages the brain and has immunomodulating effects, negative immunomodulating effects, and also permissive effects on cellular replication and growth, promotes cancer cells. So we want to keep that IGF-1 in a more favorable range, below 175. The average American is like 250. The average power lifter and guy looking to gain weight in the gym and eating the diet advised by gym trainers, their IGF-1s are up to 300. And it's just, and we have studies on this, by the way, with thousands of people tracking them for 20, 30 years, showing early life deaths with higher consumption of animal protein.
Yeah. And would you, I mean, obviously this is now going to potentially wade into opinion, but would you say that that's sort of general across the board with a higher consumption of calories, even if it's not, maybe it's from, obviously if it's chips or something like that, we know that that's going to have really negative effects, maybe even worse than animal proteins. But is this kind of across the board as you increase calories and calorie consumption, it's going to be more than likely that you're going to have a shorter lifespan and not have as good of a health and as quality of life?
Yes and no. Yes, you can increase calories from oils and have a shorter life, and increase calories from processed foods. But it's hard to overeat so many calories from vegetables because there's so much fiber in bulk. You get too full before you can put too many calories in the stomach. It's hard to eat more than 500 calories at a time of vegetables because they take up so much room. You know what I mean? And beans and nuts, and even that, it's hard to get overweight eating plant foods. So you really had to, eat concentrated calories, and eating concentrated calories, such as processed foods, fast foods, oils, and animal products, enable people to suck in more calories and get more calories in the human stomach to maximize size, growth, and accelerate human aging. And the excess calories we consume now speed up the metabolic rate, which means which raises your body temperature, raises your respiratory quotient, the amount of calories burned through breathing, and raises your thyroid function. So you're burning more of those excess calories you're eating, which then is speeding up the rate at which you're aging, and then diminishes the production. And as your metabolic rate speeds up, it reduces the production of longevity proteins like SIRT1 and AMP kinase that stabilize your DNA, your telomeres, and your stem cells. So we have even the biology worked out already as to how the excess calories speed up the aging process.
Yeah, I read that in, I think the book was Telomere Effect. They talked specifically about that. So it's interesting that you just mentioned that. So I used to read a lot of Dr. Daniel G. Amen's stuff, and he's like obviously all about the brain and brain health. But it's interesting that his kind of go-to is nutrition and sleep, right? Or kind of like two kind of main factors. And it seems to me that his nutrition is at least somewhat following or very close to. And I think most really good nutritionists are following somewhat this Nutritarian. What would be the thing that sort of differentiates you or is why yours is Nutritarian versus somebody else's healthy vegan diet or healthy diet or whatever that might be, right? Or his brain health diet, for instance.
Well, for each person, the differences might be somewhat slight. But remember, I'm saying that I want people to eat a large raw salad every day, and even a soup bowl size is not enough. I want like a 9-inch serving bowl size. So you're eating, a good couple of 3 or 4 cups of lettuce. I want them to include raw cruciferous vegetables and raw onion or scallion in there too. And then other things as well, to have a nice serving of raw vegetables each day, as well as having a big serving of cooked vegetables each day. But if your lunch is a salad and a bowl of vegetable bean soup with mushrooms and onions and beans in there, then you're consuming at least half a cup of beans in a day, and you're consuming at least half an ounce of nuts and seeds with each meal, for a minimum of 1.5 ounces of nuts and seeds a day, for facilitating the absorption of the phytochemicals from the plant foods. In other words, I'm saying that I don't eat an ounce and a half an ounce of nuts with each meal. I eat about an ounce with each meal. I eat about 3 ounces of nuts a day because I'm not looking to lose weight. But I'm saying a minimum of a half an ounce with each meal because you absorb 20 to 50 times as much of the antioxidant carotenoids and fat soluble compounds when you include the nuts and seeds with the meal. So the inclusion of nuts, so we have a lot of low glycemic, high nutrient plants that blunts the glycemic effect of the plant-based diet and magnifies the protein bioavailability of the diet by the consumption of greens and beans and nuts and seeds, of course, and having that. And we're not saying you can't eat cooked vegetables. We're just saying we're having this at least one big serving of raw vegetables a day.
Yeah, and so have you seen or studied or noticed or observed changes in brain, changes in like improvement in brain health, improvement in personality, whether it's depression or anxiety or anger or self-control, right? Any of these things, have you noticed a difference in that from this, the G bombs and your specific Nutritarian diet?
Yeah. Yes, definitely. And I was mentioning the fact that people sometimes come to my retreat here in San Diego and stay here for a few months when they have food addictions or other medical problems. And some people come here because they're like forced to be here. You know what I mean? They don't even want to be here. And they come in angry and addicted and they're drinking and whatever it is they're doing. But it's amazing how their personalities can change, how they get rid of their anger. They start to become nice people and they start to enjoy their life and wake up smiling and enjoying the scenery and the hiking and the pickleball. And they start having a great time and having fun. And they would, come in here and complaining and everything was, it's amazing. But yes, obviously, we're talking that in 100 years ago, 1 in 500 Americans were mentally ill. Now it's 1 in 5 Americans are mentally ill. And there's a correlation between fast food consumption and commercial baked goods and major depression. Even a few servings a week doubles the lifetime risk of developing major depression. So we're talking about restoring antioxidant integrity, restoring fatty acid integrity. We're talking about the immune system and the gut is intimately involved with the brain, and you can't have gut inflammation and not also have brain inflammation. The blood-brain barrier is sensitive to the gut barrier as well. So all these things are interrelated, and we have dramatic effects on people's emotional outlook. Like you said, you voiced that they're triggered to anger and to be irritated and to be annoyed by things versus looking to enjoy the world around them and get pleasure from things and be happy and feel good about themselves and be more compassionate and kind too. When you think about this, it makes logical sense because as a person becomes more of an addict, just think of the extreme. They're a cocaine addict. They can steal and rob and cheat, and they don't pay attention to their family, and they don't care about anybody but themselves. The more you're an addict, the more narcissistic you become because meeting your addictive needs become a primary driver in your behavior, and anything that stops it or interferes with that angers you. And that's why people, are so reticent to make changes. But we get people to change long term and get this negative and addictive relationship they had with food gone and start to enjoy the flavors of natural foods. Their taste buds change. They learn the recipes. They lose their addictive behaviors, and their personalities change, and they're much more open to be thinking more logically and scientifically.
Yeah, I like this. I like that a lot. So obviously, we're going to go over by me asking these next two questions, but I really want to ask these next two questions. So the first question is, if we're having this large 9-inch or larger salad bowl with, basically your G bombs, right, that you were talking about, foods in there, is there a salad dressing, or are we letting our taste buds convert so we can taste each of the different flavor profiles that the G bombs sort of represent to us? Or are you dressing it with something? Because clearly we overdress things for sure, as at least in America. Right?
Well, I think that was an oversight. I should have mentioned that because a hallmark of Nutritarian eating is that we make salad dressings with the whole nut or seed, not the oil from the nut or seed. It's not walnut oil, it's walnuts in the salad dressing we blend in the blender. It's the sesame seeds and the cashew nuts. One of my favorite dressings is just a peeled navel orange with some lightly toasted sesame seeds, some cashews, a squeeze of lemon, and some blood orange vinegar. Makes an incredibly delicious salad dressing. Or a thickened homemade tomato sauce with little pieces of sun-dried tomatoes and roasted garlic and almond butter and black fig vinegar or balsamic vinegar. We're making these delicious dressings. They're made without salt and without oil. And they're made, the fatty component comes from the nuts and seeds blended or used as nut butters. And they taste phenomenally delicious. Now, you can have your salad dry if you like it that way, but then you have to eat some nuts separately, because we still want you to have some fat in the meal to facilitate absorption, to help with the absorption of those beneficial compounds. And nuts and seeds themselves have dramatic benefits to extend human lifespan. The Seventh-day Adventist Health Study 2 was corroborated by at least 17 other studies that showed that in the highest quintile of nut and seed consumption, you had a 39% reduction of heart attack deaths, a dramatic reduction in cancer deaths, and a dramatic increase in human longevity from getting your fat from nuts and seeds instead of oil and animal product fats. And we're talking about, that was in all different cohorts: the young, the old, black, white, Asian, vegans, non-vegans, meat eaters, whoever you are, the addition of nuts and seeds had beneficial effects for human longevity.
Wow. I love that. So we have a registered dietitian that we hired about almost a year ago now. And she religiously, I wonder if she is a Dr. Fuhrman follower, actually, because her diet is almost exactly like everything that you're saying. I'm like, man, she does that. Oh, she does that too. Oh, wow, she does that. And of course, she looks great. She's a total athlete, right? And so it's all starting to make sense. So I did have one more
Well, I'm very proud of the fact that I've influenced so many professionals and doctors to change their careers, their diets, and the way they treat patients too. So I spent a lot of time, training and mentoring doctors. I'm very proud of the fact that when the American College of Lifestyle Medicine did a survey of all the physicians across America using nutritional medicine, my books came out number one as the ones they recommend to their patients.
That's awesome. Yeah. So speaking of disease, so I have a dear friend who suffers from Crohn's disease. And so obviously this is like an autoimmune gut, like major gut problem, right? Super gut inflammation. And he tells me that these specific things, right? Seeds, too much greens, whatever, really irritate his gut. So how would you sort of baby step somebody into that? Or what would be the process that someone like that would have to start stepping out in order to be able to change their diet to something like this, where they can reverse all of that inflammation and the Crohn's and all of this? I'm sure you've probably run into this in your lifetime.
Oh, I have so many cases. We could stay for hours and I could go over one case after another. But yeah, a lot of people with active inflammatory bowel disease, especially if they're inflamed, they can't have raw vegetables. We have to cook everything. Like steamed zucchini, what we do is we use steamed zucchinis with the skin on, and we don't cut them up. We steam, and then we cut them after they're steamed. But we use a lot of pureed food, and put them on juicing, juices, and we get their nutrient levels up by moderately cooking almost everything. So their diet has to be more mushy, like baby food. You know what I mean? And cooked. And then but once the inflammation is gone, with some people, they're so active, we even have to heat up the juices. Even the vegetable juice we're giving them, we have to bring them to a light boil because their digestive tracts are too sensitive. And then they can eventually tolerate raw juices, then eventually tolerate some small amounts of softer lettuce. So we advance their diet gradually as we're trying to build up the nutrient levels in their body and change their fatty acid levels. And of course, people with Crohn's, fried foods is the killer to Crohn's. So getting out the cooked oils is the killer, and they can't have nutritional yeast, things like that either. But we can really make tremendous progress. But where we start is obviously we don't give the same diet to everybody.
Okay. Yeah. Thank you so much for spending that extra time on those two extra questions. And they were very near and dear to me. So I'm sure they've probably helped a number of people that are watching this. So something that we ask, obviously, like you said, we could be on here for hours and talk case study after case study. We could go into, but right now I feel like I've just been drinking from a fire hose, if you will, of all of not only the statistics and information and data that is very clear with what it is that you're producing or providing in terms of dietary guidelines to help not only increase people's longevity, but quality of life and reverse disease and disorder. So I just really appreciate all of the time that you've given us, and all of the information that you've given us. And so we asked this question of every single one of our guests, and we've had philosophical and spiritual answers all the way to very didactic and linear and specific answers. So there's no wrong answer here. What I would love to hear your answer, though, Dr. Fuhrman. What is LivingFit to you? And obviously not LivingFit the brand, but LivingFit this concept or this principle or this idea.
Well, whatever it means is a perfect principle for me and what I represent in my life, because I enjoy being fit, because I enjoy doing physical things. That's been my most fun. I love like climbing mountains and surfing and skiing and mogul skiing and playing tennis and going and running on the sand, and playing handball, paddleball, pickleball. I just love doing stuff and I want to be physically active to enjoy that stuff. And if you're going to fly down the mountains in moguls, you got to be fit. You're going to kill yourself, And so it motivates me to stay fit and to work on my whole body, to work on my back. I remember just for a quick, and I'm coming out of medical school in like my mid-30s and going to like ski at a lot of moguls. And, my back was killing me going down the moguls. But now that I'm 68, I'm in better shape than I was when I was 35. I can do moguls. I can ski more actively, aggressively for longer and without hurting myself, because I know I take the time to exercise appropriately to handle that degree of body stress. And because I love doing that stuff, I just enjoy it. So I'm not saying everybody has to live fit to want to enjoy this degree of play, but I love doing physical things and staying and being able to do that continually as I age.
Yeah, I think that's a great and perfect finish. You're such a great example to what it is that you teach and write. And so real quick, one more question. What would be, because you do have so many books, what would be like if I wanted to get the most information or the most value for me to be able to practically apply, which book would you recommend? I mean, obviously, if people are stuck in addiction or whatever, clearly they can get on drfuhrman.com and go check out the retreat. But if I was, I'm a lay person, I want to know a little bit more about this and start to practically apply, what would be the book of choice?
My most recent book, because it's the most updated, the most heavily referenced, Eat for Life. It's that people should get always the most updated version.
Yeah, absolutely. So I saw that, and I'll buy the hardback or the paperback or whatever it is that you sell from your website. But then I went to look on Audible to see if I could pop it into my Audible and start to listen. And that one wasn't in there. So then what about for those audio?
It was not in there?
Uh-uh.
Oh, really? That's crazy.
Should it be in there?
It was.
Well, I'm going to look at it right now while we're recording because if it is, I want to retract that. I looked up Dr. Fuhrman and there it is. You are right. It is in there. There it is. 173 5-star reviews. Beautiful. Well, Dr. Fuhrman, thank you so much for taking the time. It was an honor and a pleasure to have you on the Living Fit Show. And I know for certain anybody who listens to this will be able to take steps toward living a more fit life. That is for certain.
Terrific. Thanks for the good work you're doing.
Hey, for more interviews like that, don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, if you're looking for not only those interviews, but follow along programs, exercise breakdowns, workouts, nutrition plans, and fitness equipment for your fitness results, make sure you hop on to living.fit, become a member today, and I'll see you on the next one.